Takahiro Shiraishi, the Twitter killer.
A serial killing.
They were easy pickings.
In this video, like always when I talk, you're going to hear about some strange things. Usually, when we speak of crimes, murders and psychopaths, we date back 40s, 50s and 60s, even many more years. The case I will tell you today is about a serial killer who killed about 9 people between 2 months, around 2 years. This was a true authentic psychopath who took advantage of social media and technology as tool to do evil. Today is time to talk about, and please forgive me Japanese people, Takahiro Shiraishi, the Twitter serial killer. Let's take a look. Takahiro was born in 1990 in a town near Tokyo, Japan, in a town called Tama. Although it's a recent case, very little is known about his private life, or if he had any issues from his childhood. Due to Shiraishi's family has tight control over keep his privacy about all this information, but according to his classmates, he was a normal kid growing up. They described him as a shy guy with certain grace that showed sympathy towards others, yet there still seemed to be an aggressive side to his character. However, when he got older, his classmates said he had a certain fetish, an obsession, a fixation on suffocation, whether it be self-suffocation or erotical asphyxia on women. He felt pleasure from it. Besides that, no crime was known until he was 26 years old. At that time, he was working as a manager of a small store that he describes as a shitty. He wasn't happy with his personal life, neither with the few relationships he had. Women, friends, even family, the world, man. He was fed up with everything, and he began to have a new fantasy. Suffocation became bored to him, and it was time to move on up to the next thing: suicide. This idea, the concept of suicide, has become in his new obsession. Japan is an incredible country, the culture, the people, everything overall. Even I'm looking forward to going there. And I know that as a tourist, I'm going to have a hell good time. But the sad truth is that Japan is a country with many miserable people psychologically destroyed. And also Japan have a high, and when I say high, it's really high, a high level of suicides.
I just wanted to erase my existence.
Here there is a image of Japan. A very strict country where there is a bureaucratic behavior. Boys and girls locked in their room with a certain stigma and behavioral expectation that they need to follow fully. Otherwise, you're not useful to them at all. Normally, normal people don't fit into this philosophy. Here we had a boy who didn't fit in this philosophy, mixed with sleeping issues, anxiety, depression, and psychiatric problems. Then you will surely get a ticket bomb or a monster. A monster who only in 2 months has killed 9 people between August and October 2017. This is known as a killing spree, which is when a serial killer binges in murders, a real monster. Normally, serial killers take a while between murders because they're afraid of being discovered, since it's not easy to kill without getting punished. And nowadays, we have surveillance and cameras making it easier to get caught with the crime in his hands. To make you realize how twisted his mind was, this man, upset and dangerous, became fed up and crazy, so he left the job he had in the small supermarket. He moved from Tokyo to a town near Yokohama, Tama is called, which is one of the largest cities in Japan. If I'm not mistaken, it's the second city most populated after Tokyo. He moved into a 2-story apartment with about 13.5 meters, so you can imagine how small this was. The typical mini Japanese apartment is crowded as is, and within it, he began to add more clutter. He proceeded to find a new job that entailed him to recruit females and convince them to go and prostitute in clubs in the red district of Tokyo, Kabukicho. If you guys have ever played the game saga called Yakuza that has become more and more famous, most of the settings happen in a neighborhood in Tokyo in a theory called Kamurocho. Well, Kamurocho is a very faithful replica of the real red district of Tokyo, which is Kabukicho. And if you happen to go one day, you will be impressed, because they have the same kind of entrance, the same streets, the same atmosphere, the red lights, the people. You will love it. You will love it. Promoted sites, inviting and enthusiastic, hey, come here, let's have some fun. Always encouraging and inviting people to relax and have some fun and have a good time. And don't worry, because even if it's a red light district where it's a lot of prostitution, a lot of yakuza, it's Japan. The safety standard level is so high. You can literally lose your wallet in the middle of the street, and between 2 minutes, someone will return it to you. And on top of that, give you 5,000 yen and wish you a good day. Take, sir, have 5,000 yen, have a good day. Bye bye. They have this way of being super correct and super legal so they can live peacefully. But behind the scenes, inside some of those places, atrocities are done. This average guy used Twitter to find and recruit girls who are easy to manipulate and convince them that they should work at the nightclubs as a prostitute. He will disperse these young women in different clubs in the neighborhood and earn commission from them. On the rare occasion, Takahiro had to travel to some places in Kabukicho. And there, the girls, the people who work in the premises, the professionals, the bosses began to see a strange person in him. The way he looked at the girls, the expression in his eyes can tell you more than the expression in his face. This guy was cold, that was weird, was strange, completely strange for everybody. The definition of creepy will be perfect for him. He was creating a reputation for being one of the strangest people in what was already a weird neighborhood. He returned to his apartment and continued working online. Since Takashi was doing this for a while, it helped him dominate Twitter and understand that there was a market to launch his most morbid and disgusting fantasies. Once he started to realize that people are easily to manipulate on social media, he disconnected from the reality. He created 5 Twitter profiles with one single motive in mind. And pay attention to this, to help people, especially girls, to commit suicide. Something that I cannot understand, that social media has platforms where things like this exist, so you can further understand how serious he was about this. He created 5 false accounts to help him achieve his murders. One of them was called the Hanging Pro. He was not trying to hide his accounts, making it seem like a one thing and then it was another. No, his account was directly saying, I will help you commit suicide. And many girls began to contact him. That is impressed to me. He spent all day and night on the computer talking with girls. But what was his objective? Well, to convince people to go to his apartment. Once one of them fell into his trap and will come to his apartment to talk why they want to commit suicide. In the end, these girls were convinced to go to Takahiro's apartment. What a mistake. He killed 8 girls between 15 and 25 years old, along with a guy who was dating his first victim. Takahiro was brought to the trial, where he obviously pleaded guilty, and you're about to find out what sentence they gave him. So what happened to him? Takahiro invited a girl who had suicidal thoughts to his apartment, and there he raped her and killed her, cutting her into pieces and hide the remains around his apartment. He will repeat this 8 more times. But how this happened? His first victim boyfriend found it out that she did not answer his phone calls or messages. He started to investigate it and look into the accounts that his girlfriend was associated and in contact with. He saw that there was a profile whom she spoke a lot. Her name was the Hanging Pro. The guy decided to contact this profile, which was Takahiro. Takahiro had a feeling that the boyfriend could be suspicious and potentially catch onto what he was doing. So he invited him to his house to talk, telling him that he may have some news or information on where his missing girlfriend could be, which at that time she was already dead. When the boyfriend showed up at the apartment, Takahiro attacked him from the back, killing him and chopped him into pieces. So we have this monster who will continuously get away with his murder and hiding the corpse into his apartment.
I will kill you.
a 13 meters apartment. And I repeat, 13.5 meters apartment. Why he attacked like this? Well, because he was a guy who attacked his victim without them suspecting. A completely monster. Methodical and repetitive, a strategical manipulator. Abuse, murder, dismember, and again and again and again and again. Takahiro always wanted more and more. But times are harder for serial killers, unfortunately, because in these times we have cameras everywhere. Everyone is connected to some sort of media and technologies that prevent victims from being attacked who wasn't connected. Not like it used to be years ago. If this take place back in the day, the killer can run away. No one can capture them and can run away like another killers, like the Zodiac killers and others. Takahiro would never got caught if it wasn't for one of the victims' brother. He prevented the slaughters from continuing and the number of victims getting higher. Unfortunately for Takahiro, one of these victims' brother was the end for all of this. So the brother caught on 2 months after the massacre started. How? Like others, he decides to look at her sister's social media and he discovered her sister was chatting a lot with certain guy. So he contacted the police and the police contact Takahiro using a fake account. The police set up a false date imposing as a girl, sending messages to Takahiro through Twitter, sending "I want to commit suicide, I don't want to live." And of course he did what he usually does and told her he was going to help her and set up an appointment with her in his apartment to go and discuss her suicidal tendencies. All this, of course, was a plan to catch him, and they set up an appointment near his apartment. The police at that moment entered his home and started questioning him where the guy's sister was. And with absolute tranquility and with no sympathy whatsoever, he pointed the refrigerator and said, "There she is." Criminal investigation described his apartment as the apartment of the horrors. The police began to search in his apartment and they found something horrible. Imagine 300 bones, 9 heads scattered in different places, like in refrigerators, wrapped with clothes so that there was no smell. Although the smell was already beginning to seep through his apartment into the corridors where he lived. Sooner or later, they will have caught him anyway, because the neighbor will have to complain about the bad smell that lingered from his apartment. Is just a matter of time. What is also strange to me is in that place where Takahiro lived, nobody ever heard screams or signs of a struggle from his victims. To the contrary, when all this was discovered, the neighbors say he was an educated boy, a boy who did not bother anyone in general, a very good person who helped with everything. Later did his neighbors know this good person who was just down the hall was committing one of the greatest atrocities in the whole era. 9 murders within 2 months. Thank God they caught him. When they did, can you imagine if the victim's brothers never investigated why his sister went missing or through checking her social media? And I'm not saying that the Japanese police are insufficient. Actually, they are a great police, and I think one of the kindest ones. I'm just saying that this would have almost been impossible for Takahiro to get caught. Takahiro pleads guilty, and now I will tell you what sentence they gave him. He pleaded guilty at the trial without listening to his lawyer's advice, who wanted him to pass for a mental patient that just want to help people to die. But no, they robbed all his victims from their belongings and money, will sexually abuse them and kill them. If you heard the conversations he had, you will realize that was no help to all his victims. A criminal that ended up confessing, and pay attention to this, that his crimes were all due to his sexual fantasy and feeling powerful. He wanted to feel like a god to them, and he confessed this. Remember, he confessed this. He wanted complete control over them, and when he was done, once he got what he wanted, they were of no use to him any longer. He has his phone and will just end their lives, and then found future phone in chopping them up. And so what happened to him? Japan is the one of the few countries left that still have the death penalty, but it has to be very exceptionally disgusting, such as serial killers or people who have committed severe crimes. He revenues the death penalty by hanging gallows. How ironic. But it's a very slow sentence. He can spend 5, 10, 15 years more or more waiting. And believe it or no, he's asking to any girl to visit him and meet him because he wants to get married and wants to have someone by his side in his last years of life. And because the world is completely crazy, and there also are people who are fucking nuts. And I'm not talking about the murderers. I'm talking about the fans of murders, like a Richard Ramirez or Charles Manson, have girls who obsess over them, still knowing the crimes they have committed. Whether he still had fans or not, I'm sure that some crazy woman will want to talk with him and eventually get married knowing that he is a murderer who has done horrible things and is going to receive the death penalty. This was the case today. So much danger in social networks. You cannot begin. Imagine the danger, and I'm not talking about Twitter. I'm talking about the people, society are all connected to everything, where it's so easy and possible to hurt others by pretending to be someone else. You are not in social media. Then we have the subject of suicide, and it is not that only he manipulates them. There are many people who want to end their life, such as the case of Ermin Maywes, and I'm talking about the Rothenburg cannibals, which I will talk about in a future video. And there are quite a lot of people in Japan that still want to do it. I think this can give us an image about what happened in Japan. And now we can understand that it's a country with the highest level of suicide. And I think it's not normal for us to create a society that is efficient and mentally destroy us. And this is what happened with many Japanese. Not only those who are in this crisis, but also others who live in relative good conditions, who are tired of working 12, 14 hours a day with behavioral limitations, and also a very sensitive topic to discuss. A kiss to you all, guys, and I hope you have enjoyed today's murder video. I will see you in the next one, and remember, you watch this on Ricopt.